Hello everyone and welcome to the FoodCityBoost podcast. Today we're joined by Charlotte Liborio-Corne, researcher at ASTREDHOR, the French Institute for Horticulture and a key partner in the FoodCityBoost project. Charlotte has been leading work at the intersection of urban agriculture and biodiversity and is preparing a publication that sheds light on how urban farming may influence the ecosystems within our cities. Charlotte, thank you for being with us.
Thank you very much for the invitation.
Let's begin with ASTREDHOR itself. For listeners who may not be familiar, could you tell us about the Institute and how it got involved in urban agriculture, particularly through FoodCityBoost project?
Yeah, so ASTREDHOR is the French Institute of Plants Professional, and we work on several production systems of a large diversity of plants in agriculture, landscaping, and urban farming. So we work on different topics from agroecology, pesticides reduction, climate change, the use of water, etc. And ASTREDHOR is also working more particularly on urban agriculture since 10 years, since 2015, when it began to gain momentum in Europe. And in FoodCityBoost, we are contributing our expertise in landscaping, urban planning, and biodiversity.
That's great. One of the most exciting developments from your team is the upcoming article, Biodiversity and Urban Agriculture, Insights and Future Directions. Could you give us an overview of what this publication is about?
Absolutely. So the article is a literature review that investigates how urban farming influences biodiversity. We focused on 3 key taxa: birds, flora, and arthropods. And our goal was to assess what is already known in the current scientific literature, how the studies were conducted, and where the research gaps lie. It's one of the project's first steps, and it will be followed by on-site fieldwork on our project's living lab.
What were some of the key takeaways from your review?
We found that urban agriculture can indeed promote biodiversity, but this is dependent on various factors related to the plot's characteristics and its surroundings. More particularly, biodiversity tends to be higher when plots are larger, plant diversity is high, and there's heterogeneity in the habitat structure. Nonetheless, we still lack data on the specific impacts of each factor on the different taxa. There's also clear biases in the current literature, scientific literature. Most studies come from North America and Europe, and they tend to focus on non-professional forms like community garden mostly. And so professional urban farms are still very much under-researched. Additionally, there's a lack of standardized methodologies, which makes the comparison between studies quite difficult.
That's a very important observation because especially the imbalance between community gardens and professional farms. And this work is part of FoodCityBoost's broader effort to assess the environmental impacts of the urban agriculture. How do you see your findings contributing to the overall goals of the project?
First of all, this review will help guide the on-site biodiversity assessments, which are planned in several of the project living labs, but it's also designed to inform our governance and policy activities because we want to give city planners and policymakers better tools to assess how urban farming might contribute not just to food production, but also to urban ecological resilience. And so understanding biodiversity impacts is crucial if we want urban agriculture to be recognized not just as a social or an economic activity, but also as an ecological one.
That's indeed a strong link. You mentioned living labs. What kinds of biodiversity research will be happening there following this publication?
We'll be working with local project partners across several European cities to conduct biodiversity assessments on site, focusing on the same 3 taxa: birds, flora, and arthropods. And we also want to assess different forms of urban agriculture and compare the results, which have been very little studied until now. For instance, for each of the cities, we already have identified 1 professional farm, 1 shared garden, and 1 community park. So the idea is to build a data set that connects the plot characteristics with the biodiversity outcomes, which will help us test the hypothesis and the gaps identified in the literature review.
That sounds like a significant step forward. You've also presented at a conference in June 2025 focused on ecosystem services in cities. What message do you hope to bring to that audience?
The main message is that urban agriculture can support biodiversity, but only under the right conditions. And so we need better data, more diversity in the study farm types, and standardized methodologies. I also hope to encourage more collaboration between agronomists, ecologists, and urban planners, because this topic really sits at the crossroads of all three.
ASTREDHOR is also involved in co-designing innovative urban agricultural system activities. How does your work on biodiversity inform that?
Yes, that's an important part of our contribution. So in FoodCityBoost, we're also working with the University of Liège on innovation in urban agriculture. And it was important for us to emphasize that innovation is not just technical, but could also focus on improving social links, improving the local economy, and also improving biodiversity. This is why we have included examples of environmental innovations in the catalog that will be released soon. And I would like to mention two specific examples that I think are relevant. The first one is the Trichon farm in northern France, which managed to restore fertile soil and biodiversity from a former polluted industrial land. All the process was supervised by scientists and financed by the municipality, and it took 3 years to achieve the objective. Another inspiring example is the Beacon Food Forest in Seattle in the United States, which is a community-led urban garden combining native habitat restoration and edible forest gardening. And so it's designed like a woodland ecosystem, and it combines fruit and nut trees above berry bushes and edible perennials. So this type of innovation, I believe, is essential for bringing biodiversity back to the city. And in FoodCityBoost, we're not just observing the biodiversity, but we're also helping to shape systems that can actively enhance it.
Those were excellent examples. I especially like how you frame innovation not just as technological, but ecological and social. Looking ahead, what role do you think biodiversity will play in shaping future urban food systems?
Biodiversity supports pest control, pollination, soil health, climate change, and even citizens' well-being, with many studies demonstrating the benefits of green spaces on mental health. Overall, it reflects the health, the inclusiveness, and the resilience of urban environments. So if we can integrate biodiversity goals into urban agriculture from the design phase, it will help us create multifunctional spaces that support both people and nature, making cities better places for the future.
It's a great reminder that greener cities aren't just more pleasant, but more resilient and humane. Charlotte, thank you so much for joining us and for sharing a thoughtful perspective on how urban agriculture and biodiversity can grow together.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all for tuning in. Don't forget to follow FoodCityBoost on social media for more updates and insights. See you next time.
FoodCityBoost, unlocking Europe's urban farming potential.